The day he walked away, I remember the exact moment the world stopped for me. Not because of my illness, not because of the pain crawling through my chest like fire, but because of the man who looked me in the eyes and chose to walk away. We were sitting in the cold waiting room. The doctor had just delivered the news. I had stage 2 lymphoma. Treatable, but it would be a fight. Chemo, hair loss, weakness, time, love, support. Instead, I got silence. My husband, Daniel, sat beside me, staring at the floor, not moving, not blinking. And then he stood up. No hug, no words, just a deep sigh and a bitter whisper. I can't do this. I didn't sign up for this. He left. Just like that. I had never felt so hollow. It wasn't the cancer that broke me. It was him. In the following weeks, my world shrank. Friends who used to call didn't. Family who promised to check in vanished. Even my own reflection seemed like a stranger. Bald, pale, fragile. But somewhere in that darkness, I found something else. A voice, a fire, a reason. One night in the hospital, I opened my old sketchbook. I used to be an artist, Before Daniel convinced me to give it up, he said it wasn't practical, that my passion was just a hobby. So I put down the brush and became his shadow. But now I had nothing to lose. So I drew and poured my pain into paper. Then something strange happened. A nurse walked in, saw my drawings, and cried. She asked if she could buy one. I laughed, but she was serious. She said it spoke to something in her, something broken, something healing. So I let her, and that's how it began. During treatments, I opened an online shop. I sold prints, custom portraits, emotional pieces that spoke for people who couldn't find the words. Then they sold. Fast. Soon, I wasn't just surviving. I was building. Brick by brick. From a hospital bed, I built a business. A voice. A name. And the universe? It has a wicked sense of humor. Because 1 year later, Daniel came back. And he wasn't alone. He showed up at my art exhibit with a new woman on his arm, smiling like nothing had happened, until he saw my name on the gallery wall. By Emily Monroe, Soul on Canvas. He turned white. And I turned away. I thought I was done with him. But destiny wasn't finished with our story yet, because what came next shook everything I thought I had rebuilt. The man who left, the woman who returned. I didn't expect to see him again. Daniel. The man who left me in a hospital hallway when I was too weak to stand. Now he was standing in the middle of my art gallery, with a woman who looked like a younger version of who I used to be. Polished, pretty, silent. He wore his success like a badge on his chest. Expensive suit. A Rolex watch he used to say we'd never afford. He looked like he'd won. Until he saw my name. Emily Monroe. He whispered. I turned slowly, just enough to meet his gaze. He blinked, unsure. Then his lips parted. Em? I thought you thought I wouldn't make it. I cut in. Turns out I did. The woman next to him, her smile faltered. She looked at me like I was a ghost. Maybe I was. A ghost of the girl I used to be. But now I was something more. Alive, reborn. Daniel stepped forward, his voice softer than I remembered. Emily, I didn't know. I thought you'd hate me forever. I looked at him, dead in the eyes. I did, I said. For a long time. The gallery around us buzzed with life. My painting stories of survival, betrayal, strength hung on every wall. People were buying them, admiring them, and not just the art. They admired me. But Daniel, he stood there like a man who lost a treasure he didn't know he had. He started talking about catching up, about closure, about maybe grabbing a coffee. I almost laughed. He didn't come back because he missed me. He came back because I became someone he couldn't ignore. He wanted to be part of the story now that it was successful, but he missed the chapters where I bled for it. So I smiled, and I gave him something he didn't expect. "I'm glad you're here," I said. His eyes lit up. "I wanted to thank you." He tilted his head, confused. "For what?" "For leaving." That was the moment everything changed. His face froze. The woman beside him grabbed his arm, sensing the shift. I could feel people around us listening in, but I didn't care. If you hadn't walked out on me, I wouldn't have rediscovered myself. I wouldn't have built this. I wouldn't have realized how strong I truly am. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came out. I leaned in gently and whispered so only he could hear. "You were the lesson, not the love story." Then I turned, walked toward a journalist who had been waiting to interview me, and never looked back. But just when I thought Daniel would disappear again, he did something I never saw coming. He called me, and what he said on that call wasn't about love. It was about secrets. Secrets I never knew he was hiding, about my art, about my name, and about the child I never had. The secret he hid from me. I almost didn't answer the call. I stared at the name flashing on my screen, Daniel Carter. It felt like a mistake to pick up, but something in my gut told me this wasn't about us anymore. I pressed accept. His voice trembled. "Emily, you need to know the truth." Those 6 words sent a chill down my spine. He wasn't calling to apologize again. He wasn't trying to explain why he left. No, this time he sounded scared, worried. "That night," he said, "the night I left you at the hospital, it wasn't just about me being a coward. There was silence. Then you were pregnant." The world around me slowed down. I clutched the edge of my desk, heart pounding like thunder in my ears. What did you say?" I whispered. Daniel's voice cracked. "They told me after you passed out. But you lost the baby that night." Tears burned behind my eyes, not because I had lost something, but because I didn't even know I had it. He kept it from me. He left me bleeding on a hospital bed and never gave me the truth. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I thought you were too fragile. I thought you'd never forgive me." "You thought wrong." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, staring out at a city that kept moving, while I sat still, shattered again by the same man. But this time, I wouldn't break. Instead, I opened the drawer I had locked for years. Inside was an old sketch, a drawing I made of the child I once imagined having. A little girl, with curls like mine and eyes like his. I had drawn it when we were still together, when I thought forever was possible. The next morning, I walked into my gallery and changed the title of one of my pieces, "The Lost Light." Underneath, I added a new line, dedicated to the child I never knew I lost. Daniel showed up again 2 days later. This time, he came alone. He stood before the painting, speechless. No words, no excuses, just guilt. I let him feel it. Then he turned to me. There was no arrogance left in his voice. "I wanted to protect you, but I only made it worse." I nodded. "Yes, you did." He looked down. But I wasn't alone that night. My breath caught. What do you mean? He swallowed hard. The nurse, the one who told me about the pregnancy, she's the woman I'm with now. The world spun. He didn't just abandon me. He ran straight into someone else's arms. Someone who was supposed to care for me. Someone who took my pain and turned it into her opportunity. You built a life with her? I said quietly. After what she did, Daniel didn't answer. But he didn't need to. His silence told me everything. That night, I burned the last letter he ever wrote me. And I promised myself this pain would no longer define me. It would fuel me. But just when I thought it was over, I received an anonymous email. There was no message, just a photo. A little girl with my eyes. The child I thought I lost, I stared at the photo. She was no more than 5. Dark curls, soft skin, and those eyes, my eyes. There was no name, no sender, just an attachment and a timestamp from a week ago. I felt the room spin, my hands trembling as I zoomed in. Her smile looked like his, but her eyes, they were mine. I tried to breathe. Was it a cruel joke? Or was everything I knew everything I was told? You lost the baby that night? That's what Daniel had said. But if that was true, who is this little girl? I drove to the hospital where it all happened. The receptionist looked confused when I asked for records from years ago. Sorry, she said. That kind of information needs a legal request. But someone was watching from a distance. An older nurse, her face pale as she overheard the name Emily Carter. She waited until I walked outside. You never lost your baby, she whispered. They just told you that? I froze. What do you mean? I asked, heart racing. I wasn't supposed to say anything, but I was there that night. Your partner signed the consent form. He said you didn't want the baby, that you gave her up for adoption. No, my knees buckled. You were unconscious, but he made that choice. I couldn't breathe. Daniel didn't just leave me. He erased my motherhood. He took my child. And now he was raising her with someone else. I found the woman. Her name was Anna Riley. She wasn't just a nurse. She was Daniel's fiancée, the one who helped me that night. I watched them from across the park. Anna pushed the swing. The little girl laughed. Daniel stood nearby, arms folded like a proud father. I felt something inside me snap. This wasn't grief anymore. This was war. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to Daniel. Not to Anna. But to my daughter. You don't know me, sweetheart, but I'm your real mother. One day, you'll know the truth. And I'll be waiting. I tucked it into a small envelope and mailed it anonymously. The next day, I saw something that made my heart stop. On Anna's social media, she had posted a picture. The little girl was holding my letter. The caption read, "We got an interesting surprise today." But there was one comment underneath that wasn't from friends. It was from Daniel. We need to talk. He stole my child. Now I want her back. I stared at the comment Daniel left. We need to talk. The man who took my child. The man who made me believe I was broken. Now he wanted to talk. I wasn't ready. But I would never be ready. Not for this kind of confrontation. Still, I had waited long enough. We met at a coffee shop. Same one where we used to plan our future. Now I walked in with a different purpose. Daniel looked older, less confident than I remembered. He didn't speak at first. She got your letter, he finally said. Why did you do that? I laughed. Not out of humor, but because of the absurdity of it all. Why did I do that? You stole her from me. His face tensed. I didn't steal her. I did what I thought was best. Best, I snapped. Best for who, Daniel? You? Anna? You let me believe I was too weak to be a mother. You let me cry over a child I thought I lost, while you raised her like I never existed. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. You were unconscious. You were unstable. You don't get to decide what kind of mother I'd be. I cut him off. You don't get to play God. He looked down. She thinks Anna is her mom, he said quietly. Changing that now would destroy her world. And that's when I realized this wasn't about protecting our daughter. It was about protecting his lie. I took out a photo, one from my hospital records, one that proved I never signed any adoption papers, one that showed I was drugged during recovery. I slid it across the table. You may have fooled the system, but you didn't erase me. He looked like he had been punched. What do you want? He asked. I leaned forward. I want time with her. I want supervised visits. And eventually, I want to be in her life legally. He hesitated. That's not how it works. Then we go to court. I've already spoken to a lawyer. His jaw clenched. I could see the fear in his eyes, not of losing the child, but of losing control. Later that night, I received a message from Anna, a short video. It was my daughter, sitting on her bed, holding the letter I wrote. This came in the mail, she said. It says someone named Mommy loves me. Do I have another mommy? My heart cracked open. And in that moment, I made my decision. I wasn't going to fight them out of revenge. I was going to fight for her. Because she deserved to know the truth. Because I was her mother. The battle for my daughter begins. I never thought I'd walk into a courtroom not as a criminal, but as a mother fighting to be heard. The file clutched in my hand shook slightly. It wasn't just paper. It was proof of what they'd done. Hospital records, therapist reports, legal voids. In my heart, it was beating with 10 years of silence. When I stepped inside the family law office, my lawyer, Michelle, looked up. You ready for this? She asked. I've been ready for 10 years. She smiled sadly. Good, because this isn't going to be easy. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. I had nothing. No toys, no baby photos. No memories of lullabies or scraped knees. But I had one thing, a second chance. And I would not waste it. A few days later, I received the response. Daniel was contesting the case. Of course he was. Anna has been her mother. We raised her with love. This woman is a stranger. A stranger. After all he had done, after all he took from me, he had the nerve to call me that. But then came the unexpected. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated. Hello, a soft voice replied. I'm Anna. My breath caught. Anna? I asked, not sure what to expect. I don't want this to turn ugly, she said quickly. I know things weren't right, but can we meet? Just the two of us? I almost said no. Almost hung up, but something in her tone felt genuine. We met in a park. She wore a long beige coat, the kind of woman who looked like she had it all together. But her eyes, they held guilt. You must hate me, she said quietly. I did, I replied. But now, I just want my daughter back. She looked away. I didn't know the whole truth when I married Daniel. He told me you didn't want her, that you signed her away. My fists clenched. That's a lie. I know that now, she said. And she deserves to know the truth. Tears welled in her eyes. "But I raised her," she whispered. "She's the only child I'll ever have." The air went cold. What was I supposed to say? Sympathize with the woman who took my place? But then she surprised me. "I'm not asking you to give her up. I'm asking you to share her. Please, don't rip her apart." My mind spun. This woman who once replaced me was now begging for peace. Was this manipulation? Or was it love? Either way, I had to be stronger. In court, Daniel sat with fire in his eyes. He wasn't ready to share. He wasn't ready to admit guilt. But I was ready to speak. When the judge asked, "Miss Harper, what do you want?" I stood up, hands trembling but voice clear. "I want to be her mother again. Not just on paper. Not just in history. But in her heart." The room went silent. And in that silence, I knew the battle had only just begun. But now, I wasn't fighting alone. Because somewhere, deep down, Anna wanted the truth too. When my daughter asked me, "Where were you?" I had imagined the moment 1,000 times. The first time I'd see her. The first time she'd look me in the eye. And not through a photograph or a memory someone else painted. But nothing prepared me for the ache in her voice when she spoke. Her name was Emily now. Not the name I whispered when she was a baby, but the name they gave her after they took her away. She was taller than I thought, 15 now with her father's eyes, and a nervous smile that reminded me of me. We met in a supervised room, the kind they use for reunions too fragile to trust. She sat across from me, her fingers tangled in the hem of her sleeve. "So," she said, almost in a whisper, "you're my real mom?" I nodded. "Yes. I've waited so long for this moment." She looked down. Then, after what felt like a lifetime, "Where were you?" That question, the one that split me in half. Because how do you explain betrayal without making her entire world feel like a lie? I took a deep breath. "I was here," I said softly. "Hurting, searching, surviving, but most of all, loving you from a distance I never chose." She blinked. "They told me you gave me up." Tears welled up in my eyes. "I didn't. I was tricked. I was broken. And by the time I found out the truth, you were already calling someone else Mom." Emily's lips trembled. "So was everything I knew fake?" "No," I replied gently. "Your life, your memories, those are yours. But the truth? It was hidden. From both of us." She stood up suddenly and walked to the window. "I don't know how to feel," she whispered. "I feel like I'm cheating on her just by being here." I got up too, slowly. "You're not cheating on anyone. You're discovering who you are." She turned around, and for the first time, she let the tears fall. "Why didn't you fight harder? Why didn't you come for me?" That one broke me, because I had, every second, in every way I could. But the world had been stacked against me, and she was just a baby then. I reached out. I'm here now, and I will keep fighting until you don't have to wonder anymore. The next meeting came a week later. This time, no court-appointed chaperone. She brought an old photo. "You kept this?" I asked. "I found it. In a drawer. Hidden. It's me. And you. At the hospital." And then she whispered the one thing that broke me wide open. "You look so happy holding me." I nodded. "You were my world. You still are." And just like that, she took a small step forward. "Can I call you Mom?" My knees nearly gave out. Outside, Anna waited in the car. She saw the hug through the window. And for a moment, our eyes met, not as enemies, but as women who both loved the same child. And maybe, just maybe, love wasn't about who had her first, or who raised her longest, but about who showed up when it mattered most. The truth that finally set us free. A month after that first meeting, Emily asked if she could spend the weekend with me. I tried not to cry. Of course, I said. Anytime. My door is open. Forever. She showed up with a small backpack and a nervous smile. Anna walked her to the door. There was no tension, just quiet understanding. Anna handed me a folder before she left. These are the documents. I think it's time you had them. I opened it that night after Emily fell asleep. Inside were legal records, adoption papers, and a letter. From my ex, dated 2 years ago. I lied. I told them you abandoned her. I knew it wasn't true, but it made it easier to keep her. I'm sorry, but not enough to undo it. I thought I was saving her. I was saving myself. His words were selfish, cowardly, but also the closure I needed. I looked at Emily, sleeping on the couch with her hand over a photo of us. And in that moment, I realized healing isn't loud. It's quiet. It's 1,000 tiny forgivings before the big one finally sets you free. The next morning, we made pancakes. She burned hers. We laughed, like we had done it 1,000 times before. At lunch, she asked me, can I invite Anna over too? I blinked. Of course. Anna arrived that afternoon. The three of us sat around the same table. It was awkward at first, but then Emily started talking about her favorite books, her dreams, her nightmares, and we just listened. 2 women, one who gave her life, the other who held her when she cried. And then Emily did something none of us expected. She stood up, looked at both of us, and said, I think I have 2 moms, and I'm okay with that. That night, Anna and I stayed back while Emily went upstairs. We stood in silence. Thank you, I said. No, she replied. Thank you for fighting for her. We didn't hug, but we didn't need to. There was peace now. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Emily had filed to change her name. She kept Emily, but added my last name to it. I just want everyone to know, she wrote, that I'm part of you too. I cried, not because I got her back, but because she chose me, not out of guilt, not out of pity, but because the truth, once hidden and cruel, had finally set us both free. And now, when people ask, are you her real mom? I smile. Yes, in every way that matters. Because being a mother isn't just about birth. It's about showing up even after the world told you not to. It's about staying, even when your heart has been shattered 1,000 times. It's about love, the kind that doesn't ask for proof,